This is Genuine Connections, featuring collaborative conversations about community, content, creativity, commerce, and the convergence of media and marketing.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of Genuine Connections. I am Matt Wurst, the CMO at Genuine, where we talk with people in our industry and make real, genuine connections. We're joined today in this episode by a partner of Genuine's. Tricia Maia is the head of product at TED. And just within the last few weeks, TED chose Genuine to help build out a new product called TED Shorts, which is a clipped and curated experience within the TED owned and operated channels on their app and soon to be on their website, where users, consumers, fans, viewers, listeners of podcasts can enjoy different types of clips and discover new content in new formats that they may not have seen before. It's innovative, it's AI led, and it's just getting started. And we're excited to talk to Tricia today, not only about TED Shorts, but also getting to know her as a product lead at one of the most innovative and most respected companies in the world. Hi, Tricia, and welcome to this episode of Genuine Connections. It is wonderful to have you here with us.
Hey, Matt, thanks for having me.
So you are a partner of ours, and we've had this great relationship as we've built this experience together, which we'll get into and talk about TED Shorts in a second. But I want to get to know you a little bit, kind of outside the normal working relationship that we have, and kind of go back a little bit and start at the beginning. So
Sure.
You're the head of product at TED, and I'm curious what brought you here. You've been here a couple of years. And what excites you about leading product for just such a globally recognized and respected brand?
Yeah. It's been a long journey. I feel like most product people will tell you the same thing. We sort of just fell into it. I didn't study product management or anything like that. I was actually really interested in international development, so I did some development work in Brazil after I graduated. I also worked for the New York City Economic Development Corporation. So I was really in this sort of completely different space. And then I sort of just fell into tech. I started working at an agile software consultancy, like Scrum Shop, where everything was like very organized. It was a really great sort of training ground. I was like, oh, this is interesting. I liked working with developers and designers and clients and all of that. So I started my career more in the small company startup space. Eventually went on to larger companies. I worked at Verizon for a few years where I worked on their mobile products. And how I got to TED, I think, was really just a culmination of my previous interests in development work and the sort of like mission-driven nature of TED. And so there was this amazing opportunity to lead the product team here, which I couldn't say no to. So for me, it's sort of, that intersection of everything that I've been really interested in and doing the past few years.
I feel like we could spend an hour talking just about agile and understanding kind of how that either applies or doesn't apply to things you've done and things you're doing. But your background spans design and product and even audience engagement now. How does that background, how does that sort of multidisciplinary context shape the way that you think about building user experiences today?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely classify myself as a generalist, which I sort of always thought was a bad thing. Like I was never a specialist.
Me too. I love that. It's jack of all trades, master of all. I think we could say.
I love that. We'll go with that. But I think I was always, I think because of my background, I studied economics. Like I was always really interested in like user behaviors, how people kind of adapt to new technologies and like the impact on sort of our interactions with each other. And so I have naturally always been drawn to design, user experience, research. And so over my career, I started managing UX teams, design teams, and then that made a lot of sense. Kind of continuing to roll that out, I started managing analytics and data teams, which again, in product, it's everything super intertwined in terms of understanding both qualitatively and quantitatively your audiences, your users. So I do manage sort of an array of functions, but for me, it's all how we deliver impactful technology to real people and solve real user pain points.
As a generalist in an area that moves, I mean, let's just say it moves probably faster than many people can keep up with.
Yeah.
It's not like there are books on, innovative design that are constantly being rewritten. So how does your natural curiosity manifest itself? Are there, companies you follow, newsletters you read, or is it
Yeah.
just really being open and absorbing everything?
Yeah, I mean, there was a period of time where I was like solely consuming product content, which now I'm sort of like it's over saturated, but like Lenny's podcast, Lenny's newsletter, I think
Hmm.
that's sort of my go-to. I think that a lot of strong product leaders and product people in general learn a lot from him, and so that would be one, Marty Kagan from Silicon Valley Product Group,
Hmm.
another sort of prolific product thinker and writer, just really thoughtful analysis of what's happening out there in the world. There are so many others, but I think that more recently I've been trying to like get out of the tech bubble and product and engineering and sort of like, not that we shouldn't be consuming that content, but sort of expanding it into other areas, just being well informed, well read across industries, across just different areas, I think is important, just to get out of the echo chamber a little bit of sort of these tech bubbles.
Well, and you don't have to look externally all the time either, because the TED
Yes, I
library of
know.
content is
I just watch
um,
TED Talks all the time.
it
That's
is abundant.
it.
But I mean, I think that's also an interesting perspective in that TED has always been about, I mean, ideas worth spreading, right?
Hmm.
But innovation is kind of in the DNA. And I think some people don't realize that TED has been around as long as it has. But in the time that you've been there, what does
Yeah.
innovation look like behind the scenes, maybe from what you've heard about what it was and kind of
Yeah.
what it is now?
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting. Obviously, we're known for our sort of iconic talks of someone on a stage, the red circle, the TED letters behind them.
It's everyone's dream,
That
by the way. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I talk to. I'm like, hey, we work with TED now. And they're like, my dream is to have my own TED talk. Like it's a
well,
universal thing.
that's great to hear. I mean, it's also hilarious because I talk to a lot of people. They're like, "Give me tips on like how to give a talk, or can you speak at this conference?" And I was like, "I just want you to know that if you work at TED, it doesn't mean you are a TED speaker. Like, very different
You're
caliber
not the head of
of skill
programming
set."
too for
Yes,
every
yeah,
conference, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I get asked a lot of questions that aren't always applicable to me, but yeah. So I think that it's balance is key. So we have to protect what's iconic, but then evolve as a brand. And so some of the ways that I've seen us do that over the past 4 years is like format innovation. So just thinking about, yes, we have our TED Talk, but leaning into audio, for example. So we have a huge network of podcasts that we're continuing to grow over the years, meeting people where they are in that space. But also, and this ties into what we're doing with Genuine, is creating new sorts of formats for people to discover our content, whether that's short form, interviews, just different ways to get ideas to people in new ways. And so, yeah, for the shorts, for example, we've had a lot of success in our on our social platforms over the past few years, and so we've sort of seen this uptake in people discovering TED as a brand on these platforms that they might have never been experienced or had experience with before. And so for us, it's a thinking about that sort of content and format innovation.
Yeah, there's got to be this balance, I'm sure, that you're constantly thinking about between honoring this legacy and brand, but
Yeah.
it's also, I mean, there's pressure to experiment and evolve and meet audiences where they are today. So
Yeah.
with these emerging formats, whether it's
Hmm.
again mobile video,
Yeah.
social storytelling, uh, is that kind of a core feature in the product strategy, or is it like it's chicken and egg, right? Like, do you
Yeah.
follow the trends? Do you want to lead the trends, or are you kind of going
Totally.
back and forth?
Yeah, I think what we try to hold true to is that for us, innovation is not just about chasing novelty. So we really think about relevance and utility and the resonance with our audience. So we, as much as possible, try to keep our finger on the pulse in terms of what our users need and want. And so, like, from a product perspective, we're really fortunate. We have an app, for example,
Mm-hmm.
get tons of reviews through the app stores. People tell us what they love, what they don't love. But that's an amazing source of feedback. I mean, all of our different communities, our events and our conference community, same thing. We try to just really listen in terms of what's resonating, what's not. So yeah, we try new things. Like we've had tons of experiments with AI. Some of them were okay. Some of them were great. Some of them flopped. And so I think for us, it's about not being scared to try things, even though we have this amazing brand that we want to uphold. It's also not being afraid to take risks. And so from a product perspective, that manifests in the types of formats we launch or the types of features that we, add on to our talks. We played around a lot with like written form and summaries of content. Not everybody has 18 minutes to watch a talk. So can we distill the key points into like 3 bullets? Again, sometimes that works. Sometimes the summaries, they can't distill the essence of a talk. And so again, it's for us, it's just about those experiments and just keeping on trying new things.
And when you go into those, are you defining either kind of a loose range of KPIs, or is it flexible based on sort of broader objectives and kind of company vision?
Yeah. Historically, at least from a digital perspective, it's always been about basically talk views. How many people are consuming our content on a monthly basis, on an annual basis? But as we experiment with new ways, we have to transform those KPIs. So for example, with like the written form content, we had some experiments in our newsletters. Again, newsletters is actually a big platform for us as well. We've invested a lot in the technologies, the personalization. But anyway, we have and we've had these discussions internally where we have summaries sometimes of talks, which means that people don't need to click the link to go to a talk. So we're like, are we shooting ourselves in the foot because now they're getting, the content from the newsletter and not that? And so we try to kind of take a step back and think about like, what are we trying to do? We're trying to translate new ideas or transform people with new ways of thinking. And so our KPIs have to evolve too. So yes, talk views is still one of our main metrics of success, but it's not the only one. And because we're a nonprofit, another vector here is impact. So the impact we're making on people's lives, you can't measure that with like monthly active users. And so we do a lot of sort of parallel reporting and analysis on like research studies, basically interviewing people across the world and saying like, how has TED impacted your life? Which I don't think many companies do that necessarily.
No, and that's interesting in that you could be, yet again, a thought leader in and around the impact space where other nonprofits who are struggling to define certain KPIs or qualitative metrics and experiential metrics, but don't have the resources or the reach that you have. Do you feel some responsibility to then share some of those learnings with those types of other organizations?
Yeah, I definitely get, especially when I talk with other nonprofit leaders, this is always a topic of conversation. So I won't pretend that we have all the answers or we've figured out the formula, but
still a community after all, right?
Exactly. But that's a good point. And maybe we can formalize some of our learnings. But like, for example, like even on our team, one thing we do once a quarter, we're organized in squads. So we'll have like different teams within the tech and product function. One team will work on the website or the app or community support or localization. And so every team sort of has their sub KPIs, like for their area, what they're trying to move. Some of them are more measurable than others, but we'll go through that. But I'll always make sure we have a qualitative element. So especially from our community support team, I'm like, I know, you have like how fast you close the ticket or whatever, like that's interesting and that's good to know. But like, what are the highlights? Like, what are some of the quotes that we get from the community? And those are so meaningful. Again, it's just a small sample size, but it really makes you feel like you're connected to a mission that's delivering impact. And that's really cool.
Wow. Well, we are, as I mentioned, excited to be partners with you as we build an experience together for your users and your consumers, your viewers, your readers, your listeners. You've got a whole multimedia army and community there.
Yeah.
And as we're still early in this, and we focus on TED Shorts just for a second.
Yeah.
How did this idea come about from your perspective? I know the story I like to tell, but was there a specific gap you were looking to fill in the TED experience, or because you saw the success of just where social and video are going, that it was like, now or never, guys?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that pretty much. I mean, like the origination of this, I think, is very straightforward in the sense of, yes, we short people, our attention spans are shorter as like a human race, and so we see that on our social channels. We see that in general. So part of it was, yes, like where people like kind of skate to where the puck's going or where it already is. But another part of that is like, and actually, I think this is really interesting. I've seen some of the podcasts I listen to or people I follow, they're really pushing people to subscribe to their YouTube channels. Like they're like, go on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube. I'm like, why? And we have this debate internally, like, is a view worth more on YouTube or on our site? It's not black and white. But the reason that they're pushing people there is because they want to make sure that good content, high quality content are on those platforms where people are, and it doesn't just become a void of like vapid thinking and like doom scrolling. Like the good content providers have to make sure that they are where people are listening and hearing. And so for us, it's like, yes, that is absolutely true. We need to be on all those platforms. On the flip side, our spaces, like our app, our website, all of our owned and operated platforms, that's where we control the experience. We really can, push what we think is not just high quality, but personalize the experience for people in ways that those other platforms can't. And so we have to find this balance of making sure we have at least the same, if not more of a value prop for people to come to our platform. So again, at the very like straightforward level, we needed new forms of content discovery, which could be short form content or, mobile video. But I think for us, the real opportunity is in the community features and sort of how we can start building conversations around our content on our owned and operated platforms that currently doesn't exist today. And so I think the Genuine platform was really interesting because it hit a need that we had immediately, but it also offers new ways for us to think about how we engage our audiences.
Well, I appreciate the shout out there, so thank you. Although it's not really meant to be a gratuitous plug, I'm sure. As I work with and get to know and have decades of experience working with really smart product leaders, the question that always comes up when innovation is necessary and essential is the build, buy, borrow, or partner question, right? And I have no doubt that you could lead a team that builds something, but it would take time, it would take resources, and you may not have that luxury given the speed with which things need to move. Was that part of the consideration as far as like the partnership model versus a build model, which some may choose to do and take years doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, going back to your question around how things have changed, I think TED has evolved over the years. In the past, I think we had a very sort of robust build mentality where everything we did was bespoke to us. It was custom, and there are so many benefits to that. But over the years, as technology has evolved, as budgets have shrunk, like that reality becomes different. And so since I've joined, a big part of my job, honestly, is assessing where we should be building, where we should be buying or partnering, to your point. And so for us, again, the starting point is like, what problem we're trying to solve? Like, what do our users and audiences need? And then let's assess, do we have anything internally? Do we have the skill sets internally? Is this an area of focus for us? Like, should we be committing to this versus doing something custom for our conferences? And so these are all the decisions we're constantly weighing. But for this specific use case, like we want short form mobile video. We've talked about this for years. Just getting content from our social platforms to our owned and operated platforms is a huge technical lift. And so this was almost like a turnkey solution where it's like, okay, we have this need. We know it's hard for us to do. This is a perfect example of where we can partner.
Yeah, and a lot of what we work with you on, obviously, is a kind of a phased approach, just to ensure that it's not too much all at once, and figuring out that that right integration strategy, which, depending on companies' objectives, opportunities, will be different. So as the phased approach continues to roll out, how do you see the TED Shorts product, if you will, or experience for the user? How is that going to evolve over time? Is this the start of the new chapter in how TED content is consumed and discovered and shared? You talked about kind of the participation component of it. What's next?
Yeah, so phased approach, really, really important for us. Want to test the waters, and also from just an assessment point of view, just being able to have these discrete tests where we can measure and compare engagement. So starting with the app, starting with English speakers primarily, I think I would love to expand into to figure out how we get this available to more international users. We have a huge global audience, and so thinking about the right mix of like automated subtitling, and is this a good experience? And so I think we will obviously expand to more international use cases. Beyond that, we're talking about getting it onto our website, at least for the mobile website to start, TBD on desktop. So that's a natural area of extension. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm really intrigued by the user generated content aspect of the platform that gives a lot of people at TED a heart attack. So that's why we're not, launching it immediately. But I do think there are smart ways to roll this out. We have a huge network of trusted community advisors, whether they're a TEDx organizer or a volunteer translator that's been with us for 10 years. And so I don't think we have to just open up everything to everyone everywhere. I think we can be really smart about, our trusted brand ambassadors and giving them a little bit more flexibility to help us evolve the platform. So that's what's exciting for me.
Yeah, I mean, TED has always had a strong community and spirit. I mean, it's the DNA. And as you think about making that more tangible and connected through product, there's so many platforms pushing passive consumption, I would say. So are you thinking about this next phase of design of the solution for active participation and like community building as a goal?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. 100%. I mean, we talk about a lot the success of our TEDx initiative. I mean, years ago, we basically gave our brand away to the world, and we're like, hey, you can run events for TED. You have to follow these guidelines. Like go at it, see what happens. And so that was a very risky point where it could have just devolved into just sort of a cesspool and terrible situation. But it actually really blossomed into something really beautiful. Some of our most successful talks are from TEDx events. Like I mentioned, our TEDx organizers and our TEDx community is one of the strongest communities that we have. And so I do see parallels in the digital space where, we can have frameworks and we can have rules and guidelines and some sort of barriers so that it doesn't, just become a free for all. And I think that if we take that same ethos and same mentality of like, how do we give away a little bit to the world and create this sort of generative, creative experience that is something really meaningful. And yes, it gets dicey in the digital age, like content moderation and trolls and, people misusing our brand. I think those are some of the biggest risks, which is why we don't want to jump in, entirely. But I think thinking about it thoughtfully is something that, will evolve over the next few months and years.
Well, it's a good segue to where I wanted to maybe jump a little bit earlier, but I was pushing off the AI conversation as much as I could because it's just everywhere and it's dominating and it's very much at the core of everything that we've built. And again, that phased rollout of how and where you use and leverage the AI features and tools is going to be different for everyone. So as we are thinking about the expanded use cases with our platform and others that you are leveraging, what excites you most about how AI, which is a broad range of tools and capabilities, but how that can elevate content or enhance the discovery experience, right? There are great outcomes that could happen, but there are also risks and guardrails that you want to put in place, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the three main sort of vectors that I think about AI in terms of our products are the content personalization, like serving up the right content to the right people. The second piece is the content creation. So like actually creating new content with AI. And the third is the content moderation. And so I'm excited about all of those things. I think the personalization, the first point, is the most obvious. Is like the more personalized that we can get using AI to create these amazing experiences, no brainer. The moderation, also no brainer. Like if you can help us moderate our content, we don't have a huge team. We have no team actually
I
of
have
people
good news for you
monitoring
there.
our
That could be
content. Yeah.
fully autonomous based on at like a
Yes.
platform level, at a community level,
Yeah.
right? All that's already possible. But yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So I think the content creation piece is like sort of the last frontier, which we've again have a lot of discussions about internally. I think to date the technology hasn't been not genuine. I mean, in general, the state
Mm-hmm.
of like sort of automated cuts and AI generated content has not really met TED's quality bar. But I believe that the just sort of the pace of innovation in AI is just happening so fast that it's only a matter of time until nothing will ever be perfect. Even a human editor will not edit a piece of content perfectly. But for us, I think the quantity, sort of finding the right mix between quantity and quality is really important. So we've started, at least with our initial integration, with human edited clips, like curated by our team, like have editorial blessing. That's really important. We're going to hit a point though where we need more. We need more content than what our team can produce. And so for us, I think it's figuring out how do we still keep that high quality bar, but also, again, meet our users where they are and just have more amazing ideas to share with them. And I think AI can really facilitate that.
Yeah, even if more of the creators in the network, right, have access to tools that lower the amount of effort that's required from a either input or output.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I don't know that Professor Grant, Adam Grant, who's one of your podcasters, is going to go off and let a twin version of himself create a
Yeah.
podcast without his knowledge or permission. I don't see that happening anytime soon. It would be an interesting
Yep.
experiment, just as for curiosity's sake. But
Yep.
maybe the editing tools, maybe the inspiration, or whatever he uses
Yeah.
to prepare will mean he can create 3 times as many episodes in
Right.
1/4 amount of time, right? That's, I think, the type of
Exactly.
efficiency that will come first. So that
Yep.
is exciting. I'm
100%.
excited for that. Do you see the role of TED as curator with AI tools changing
Mm-hmm.
as well, not just creation?
Yeah, I think that again, one of the areas that I'm really interested in, actually, this sort of like I think this point sort of clicked with our team internally, and even in like the initial discussions with Genuine, is like the possibility of unlocking curation. So whether again, I don't know how this looks or how this would roll out, but we have an amazing speaker network and we have all of these amazing community members. Like, how about we hear from them? Like, what sorts of topics or areas do they feel really passionate about that they want to evolve? They want to bring people in, they want to sort of start that dialogue. We have an amazingly talented curation team, but there are only so many people. So the more sort of trusted folks and community members that we can get in, having their own communities and curating their own experiences with Ted's blessing, I see that again just as sort of like a generative experience that will allow us to create so much more vibrancy than we can with, the small team that we have.
So if we now zoom out, what's something you're thinking about, a bet that you are thinking about making about just the future of digital learning,
Yeah.
community, storytelling, content
Yeah. Yeah.
creation, that you're like, this is where I'm focused next?
Yeah. Yes, the main area that I'm really passionate about is not just exposing people to great ideas, but also giving them the tools to be able to effectively communicate their own ideas. And so I think this ties in really naturally to a lot of what we're talking about, especially as we venture into more of like the user generated, curated space. But we are literally world class in public speaking and communication. And on the flip side, like all of my professional networks, the number one skill I always see people asking about is how can I communicate more effectively, whether I'm on a stage or in the boardroom or in a one-on-one. And so for me, like it sort of clicked. I was like, we have all of these amazing assets. We do have certain programs and products that we exclusively offer to businesses and sort of from a B2B lens. And I'm like, is there a sustainable way to make these lessons and these insights available to our global audience who are craving these skills? And I do think the community piece is really interesting. Like maybe there's sort of like a feedback mechanism, and people can share like their TED talk and get feedback from their community members. And or maybe it's sort of
That's
like more of
cool.
a course like structure that we're
Yeah.
offering, and that has the community element. So yes, more generally around like how do we upskill people in one of arguably the most important life skill of communication. That is something that we're thinking about and trying to figure out how to unlock.
Well, it takes the idea and your core value proposition of ideas worth spreading and actually
Mm-hmm.
makes it multi-directional, right? It's not just
Mm-hmm.
about these people in this red
Yeah,
circle talking to an
exactly.
audience. It is, I mean, this is the definition of community, right? It's content,
Yeah,
it's connection, it's continuous. Uh,
yeah,
so I think that's definitely something the world needs to hear more of and learn more of. So before
yeah.
we wrap, I would be remiss if I did not ask you personally if you have either a favorite clip, a favorite highlight, a favorite speaker, a video that you think either me or those
Yeah,
who are listening and watching would really like. If you just watch one thing today, this is
yeah.
my recommendation. What is the Tricia curated TED content short that we can't miss?
All right. This is literally the number one question we always get asked, and I always get asked. And you'd think I would have
By
like
the way,
a
that's why it's the
good,
last
solid
question.
answer.
It's the last
Well, yeah,
question. Yeah.
exactly. So I feel like most people at TED, they have like super profound answer, like it's the same iconic talk, and like they have a reason behind it. Um, I have two little kids, so my mind constantly like resets every day, and I barely remember what happened the day before. So I sort of have recency bias here, but I'll have to recommend Molly Wright's talk. She was, I think, 6 or 7 year old. She was a small girl, literally giving a talk, and the reason I say this is not just the content of the talk was great. It's how do you raise children the first 5 years, super important. How do you just raise good humans, which I think is an evergreen, very important topic. But I was watching it with my daughter because she wanted to know what I do for work, and it's hard to explain what product is. It's sort of hard to explain what TED is. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to show you a video, and that one popped up, and she was like, that's great. How do I do that? I want to be like her. I want to watch more TED Talks. And I was like, yes, I'm trying to like extricate her from like the YouTube rabbit hole of terrible content. I was like, if Molly Wright can convince my daughter to watch more great content and like be like her, I'm like, I'm for it. So I gotta give her some props.
Well, that is inspirational and amazing as a parent and both a TED product leader. But I also think that you may know some people who could, if and when she's ready, your daughter,
Yes.
who wants to get on that stage, you may know someone who could make it happen. Maybe at a smaller scale first.
Yes.
Maybe she has to work her way up. But also you may not want to play favorites, right? So you have to be
No, that's
considerate
true.
of asking. So well, Tricia, this was a real treat. Thank you so much for joining us. I really enjoyed getting to know you more and learning more about what you guys and how you guys are thinking about building and innovating, and we're excited to continue to scale our partnership together. So, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.